I made my first 100K producing trap, and it made me top 2% producer with 126 million streams. So in this video, I just thought that I'm gonna walk you through the steps that I took there so that you can just copy me and do the same thing. When I was starting out on this journey, I had a few problems. So back in 2020, I had been producing music for a while. I was grinding 24/7, but I was still not making any actual money off of the producing that I was doing. The reason for that was that the artists I had, they either didn't want to pay or they literally didn't have the money to pay. So what ended up happening with a lot of the people I was working with was that, I had splits on the records. Maybe I even had like a 50-50 split, but it didn't really matter at the end of the day because the records weren't streaming enough to where I could actually make money off of them. And this was the main problem. I put all my focus and attention towards working with artists, but none of the artists I was working with could actually pay me in any way, shape, or form. What I needed to do was to find a way to work with artists that could actually pay me. And the first thing I did was step one, which was to rebrand myself by fixing my Instagram. And this is pretty general knowledge, but it's extremely important. And the reason it's so important is because your Instagram becomes like your resume, it's your portfolio. Whenever you're trying to get people, whenever you're trying to network, your Instagram is the first thing that they're going to see. And if that doesn't look good, that will make the networking process so much harder. And it's more important what you don't have on there rather than what you actually have on there. Because I never had a lot. I can just show you my new Instagram right now. There's not a lot of stuff on here, but it's some nice, like aesthetic looking pictures, some pictures of proof, stuff like that kind of raises your status, if you so will. I can also show you my old IG. Here you can see my old IG, just like pictures in the studio, then the rest is releases. But what I think is important is putting emphasis on proof. So releases, placements, all of that kind of stuff gives you more value as a producer, because the more and bigger songs you've done, the more value you get. The rest all came down to networking and actually doing a great job with the people I was working with. And that's what I'm going to break down in just a second now. Before I do that, if you feel like you want more help, you're very welcome to join my free community. People are in here getting wins. I'm in here every day helping out for free, and it's just a nice community overall. So if you're really serious about producing full-time and you don't want to do it all alone, then you're very welcome to join in on this. Now, step two, once I did the one-off task of just fixing up my Instagram a little bit, was to start networking vertically with artists and other industry people, of course, that were one step ahead of me. Because sure, I can tell you, oh, you need to work with artists who have money, artists who can pay you, artists who does this. But when you're in that spot that I was, where you're just working with very small artists, you're not known, nobody knows you, then that's very hard to do. Now, the way I overcame that was by networking vertically. And that simply means that you network one step ahead of you. I network both in DMs and real life. I would say that 90% of the connections I made started on social media. So Instagram with comments, perhaps a story repost and DMs. And then you transitioned into meeting up in real life, perhaps getting in the studio and working together. What I started focusing on was small artists connected to big artists. And the way that you find these is pretty straightforward. You literally just go to a bigger artist on Instagram, you look at who they're following, and then you can comment on those people's stuff. You can repost their releases to your story to show love, gain attention and recognition, and then you reach out to them. Same thing with producers. Same thing with managers and A&Rs. By simply going to one big artist, you can just look at everybody in their network and then reach out to those people. In the beginning, I just went one teeny tiny step above mine. So I looked for the people with very few followers that looked accessible to me, where it's not like I'm shooting above my weight class. I can approach people as mutuals and equals, and we can actually work together and get some stuff going. Because the problem when you're just shooting above your weight class too much, you guys are not equal, they don't care, and it's going to be very hard to form a real connection because you haven't built your value yet. However, by quote unquote flooding the underground, as I like to call it, by working with all of these small artists that are around big artists and producers, and you build your value in that way. It's like almost training camp or boot camp. You're in this little like lower level, but you're taking that level over, and not only does it allow you to build connections and build your brand, but also your skill. So when you get the bigger opportunities, you're ready. Then, as soon as I got a release with perhaps a small artist that I knew were connected to a bigger artist, I would leverage that release by then reaching out to somebody one step ahead of them. So for example, I work with an artist, he has 50K monthly listeners. I work with him, then I know he knows some artists with 100K monthly listeners. So I work with the artist who has 50K, we release a song. As soon as that song is released, I'll start reaching out to their friends. Because now, not only have I already worked with his friend, so he's far more likely to actually want to work, I'm also being followed by his friend. So he can see like, okay, wait, this guy just produced my friend's record, it's good. I can see that he follows him, and now he's hitting me up. All right, let me see what he's got. Because you gain this recognition and people are far more likely to want to work with you then. The main thing I did here was that I took action on this and I became proactive instead of reactive. So instead of just staying stuck doing the same thing over and over again that wasn't working, I took action in a different direction and I switched up my approach. So instead of just working with small artists after small artists who wouldn't further my career, I realized that in order to further my career, I needed to kind of climb this ladder so that I could get to bigger opportunities that could actually pay. And this built my name a lot, because when you're constantly moving in the right circles, you're shaking hands, you're meeting the right people, then it's almost impossible for opportunities not to find you. For example, the first record I had to hit the charts, which was this one, it charted at number 25 on the Swedish Top 50. It came from me working with a couple small artists that were connected to some bigger artists. Then through that, releasing those songs, a manager hearing that, him reaching out to me, wanted me to work on a different project. And then all of a sudden he just came to me and it was like, okay, this artist wants beats for his album. Can you make that? So what I'm saying is that the music business isn't predictable. It's very unpredictable. But by being proactive and taking action in the right directions towards the right people and doing the proper work, you will put yourself in the position to where you can quote unquote get lucky. Then once I was able to build my name by moving in the right circles, then I had far more opportunities, and by getting a record that charts, for example, and then once I had a record that charted, I leveraged that to lock in with up-and-coming artists. When I say up-and-coming artists, I'm not meaning just any random artists, but you want up-and-coming artists with real potential. Real potential isn't only decided by your ears and what you think sounds good or not, because that is all subjective. They used to focus very much on like, oh, I think this artist is good, I think this artist is bad, therefore this is a good artist. Sure, that works. There's nothing wrong with that. We all have different tastes, but that's the thing. It's all just a taste thing. What actually helped me was to look at the numbers. So I noticed a pattern where a lot of producers, they blew up by breaking artists who were strong up-and-comers with 100K to 250K monthly listeners. So I noticed a pattern here in Sweden. In other countries it might be less, might be more. But I noticed a pattern where when an artist had 100K to 250K monthly listeners, that showed me that there was enough of a demand there for people wanting to listen to them. They just haven't had that breakout hit yet. Once I had a little bit of a brand, a little bit of a leverage through working with the really small artists that were connected to perhaps artists with 250K monthly listeners or 500K monthly listeners, I really started working on these. This isn't just me that's saying this. There's countless of interviews with, for example, Metro Boomin, where he talks about the importance of actually breaking an artist and building with an artist. However, what I got wrong and what I think a lot of people get wrong is that we think that we can just build with just about anybody. That's difficult. Sure, in the beginning you do that, but then you want to kind of level up and get to the point where you can get these artists, because these artists have potential to make big songs. And then what happens when you make a big song with them is, first of all, you guys get a great relationship and you can stay locked in and keep working and keep getting songs out, which will pay you. Second of all, it will grow your brand like crazy, because all of a sudden you're making all these records, they're performing well, and it all came from you. Because if an artist, for example, goes from 250K monthly listeners to 500K or 700K after they started working with you, that speaks volumes. And then what happens is that other artists are going to see that and they're going to start reaching out to you because they see that and they're like, okay, this guy has something going on. And that's why I started focusing on quote unquote breaking artists. And when I did that, I was really focused on making songs, not just selling beats, not just giving a beat away and saying, hey, do whatever, but making songs. So I made the beats, I recorded the songs, I mixed, I mastered, I did everything. These two aren't necessary. But the point is that you want to get in the trenches with the artists and like be in the studio, be involved in the creative process and help make these records that you guys make the best they can be so that you can make these artists' best performing songs. And the way I did that was that I needed to learn what made songs good, what made songs bad. So I broke down trends by listening to the top 50 charts. So for example, I just go on the charts, spend like 60 minutes every day listening through every single song, trying to recognize the patterns, the reoccurring themes, the reoccurring drum patterns, the reoccurring tempos, the reoccurring chord progressions, and then matching that with the artist style so that we could make something that had hit potential, but at the same time also was true to that artist's sound. And actually doing those things did help me make 9 top 50 records, just by breaking down the top 50. And when it came to payments, I would do 20 to 30% splits with independent artists, and of course 50-50 on the publishing. Then when it came to artists who were signed, that would be a negotiation with the label. But for those artists, I tried to get as high of an upfront payment as I could. Those payments would typically be like 1.5K. Then as I got further along in my career and my brand grew, that number grew to 3, then 5K, and so on. Now the outcomes here is that the rebrand made people take me more seriously and networking got easier. So instead of me having a completely anonymous page without any releases, without any posts and just blank screen recordings, it made networking really hard and nobody would actually reply. Rebranding was just the first little nudge to be able to execute this entire step-by-step plan. But it was necessary because that enabled me to do all of the other networking. So networking got easier. Then networking vertically, as I mentioned, it gave me, first of all, experience, connections, and it helped me get to good artists. Because when you consistently climb, because you build so much recognition and reputation and connections that you're able to get to the good opportunities that you can then leverage to get even better opportunities, and you create this snowball effect. Then lastly, locking up with up and coming artists is what opened up the entire industry for me. And the way it opened it up was because I could lock in with these artists, make songs that actually hit the charts, and that is what broke my name. However, it's way easier to form that relationship with strong up and coming artists rather than already big artists. Plus, you get the added benefit of you forming an artist's sound, which makes it so much powerful and makes your brand so much stronger. And following this process gave me a strong brand with enough value that I could start getting paid, because I was working with artists who were either streaming or signed, who had money behind them, so that I could get paid as well. And the lessons learned here is that you need to either get to big artists or get medium artists and break them to win. Connections is above everything, and that's why networking vertically is so important, because you need connections. The third lesson is that your brand is an output of the songs you made. So what I mean by that is that the songs you make, the people you know, that becomes your brand. Not your posts, not anything else. It's the songs and the proof that you have. Lastly, it is that locking in with the right up-and-coming artist is a shortcut.